Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Nicholas Zart signing in for Car News Cafe.
And
And
this
that's
is
it.
Aaron with CarNewsCafe.com. We have a lot
And
to talk about today.
and this is
And
Adam
we're going to
from
freaking go.
CarNewsCafe.com. And if you guys want to tweet us, we're at CarNewsCafe. My personal Twitter is Adam Yamada, Yamada. And you can
And that's
also,
it. You have a
Yeah,
great
and
day.
if you have
yep,
something you want to know about on the website, you can email me, Aaron at CarNewsCafe.com. Pretty easy. Two A's in that,
So
Aaron, brother of Moses.
whatever else you don't want to email about, you can just email me,
wait.
Nicholas, no, Nicolas, and don't email me.
It's an email. Wait, it's not Nick, Nick?
No,
Nicholas
it's
gets
not.
very touchy about that.
Okay.
Well, today
It's not that
we
I'm touchy.
wanted
It's the,
to.
all my life I've been using Nick, but Nick was the one who got in trouble, the trickster and everything, and I don't want to do that anymore. I'm tired. I'm getting older. So Nicholas is perfect for me right now. Tomorrow's another day.
I have no idea
Well,
what
today we
you
wanted to
just
talk
said.
about stick shifts
Those who
versus
know understand.
automatic cars. This is always a hot topic among gearheads and automotive enthusiasts because they are always complaining about the decline of the stick shift, at least in the U.S. I know in European countries it's different. Nicholas can probably give us some insight into that, but the last time I checked statistics, only 6.5% of new cars sold in this country are stick shifts. The rest are
Gee,
automatics,
it's
and
that low, really?
yeah, it's that
That's
low.
great.
And even on the higher end performance cars, they're
Yeah.
basically going to, these twin clutch transmissions. You cannot order them in a stick shift. I know Porsche has that like EK. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's like a
Yeah.
40-letter word.
It's achterste
Yeah.
niet.
They're moving to these transmissions just because shifting is faster. I mean, there's really no contest in terms of speed and convenience. I mean, they're obviously a lot more complicated. But yeah, but even on
Adam,
high-end performance and supercars, you basically stick shifts are starting to become basically a
yeah.
dinosaur. So, what
Adam,
are
this
your thoughts about that, Nicholas?
there's also another thing we should add to this is you're right, definitely stick shift versus automatic versus pedal shifting, because there's been a trend going away from stick shift to pedal shifting, or from automatic to pedal shifting. Personally, I think one of the reasons in this country why that number is so abysmally low is the fact that it's the gasoline in this country is so cheap that it doesn't really make that much sense to give people stick shift. People are very happy with an automatic. In Europe, you can actually get a driver's license for automatic. So it is that much different. The reason why stick shifts are happening and still
That's
happening to
interesting.
this day in
I did
Europe.
not know that. So there's a different
Yeah.
license for automatics versus stick shifts. You're saying
Yeah, if you
in a
only
lot
want
of
to drive
European.
an automatic, you can do it, but well, at last I remember, that was maybe 15, 20 years ago, but you could get an automatic driver's license and not, be able to use a stick shift. But again, I would say the numbers are probably reversed in Europe. You probably will get like maybe 8% of the cars who are automatic. And the reason is very simple, because in Europe those engines are much smaller, much more efficient, and mating a automatic to a 1.1 liter engine is just a waste of energy and efficiency. However, once you make an automatic transmission to a 2 liter and above, whatever efficiency you lose, you get it in terms of what's the word I'm looking for, creature comfort. So it's really unfortunate to hear that it's that bad. I don't know. What do you think, Aaron? You probably know better about that part over here.
I know that the sales for manual transmission here in the U.S. are very, very low, like Adam said. Um, a lot of that is just because most cars now are actually more efficient in their automatic transmission form.
These
That's
days,
been,
yes.
yeah, that's been true for the last 5, maybe even 10 years. And
Hmm.
we're getting now to where companies like Chrysler are putting these 8 and 9-speed transmissions in things in order to improve efficiency. You have a lot of CVT action happening, so
Yeah.
you have, Nissan, Subaru, and so forth have really perfected that CVT, continuously variable transmission. So, and that is ultra efficient. And then you have, you have all these things that are happening that, and really the only people that want to drive down the road and actually move a shift lever around are either sports car drivers, and even then it's becoming a smaller and smaller contingent of those, and purists, people that think that you have to have that to drive a car. The rest of us find it to be highly inconvenient most of the time and fun some of the time. So,
And
there's
you
some
know
cars that I enjoy
one
driving
thing
because they have a stick in them. But
one,
if you
one,
drive
one thing you
every
can add
day
to
all the
that,
time,
Aaron.
you really don't want to run a
Yeah.
stick shift all the
Yeah.
time.
One thing you can add to that, Aaron, is also I think it's also a question of generation. When I think of Adam's generation, I don't think many of them know how to drive a stick shift, whereas my generation,
I
well, we
mean,
learn how to drive with a stick shift. So for
Mhm.
us, it's going to be a little bit. I mean, I know I'm going to favor a car with a stick shift, but having said this, and you made a really good point, modern automatic gearbox now are really good. When I test drove the Mazda 6 Sky Active, there was paddle shifting and the automatic gearbox. So my first choice was to use the stick shift. I mean, the paddle shifting. But you know what? That automatic gearbox was the best automatic gearbox I've seen in any car, and I drove the rest of the five of the remaining days. I drove it on automatic. It was just perfect the way it was.
yeah, I mean, I've been in cars where people did not even, I mean, we got in the car and somebody was, it was a stick shift, and someone in the car did not actually know what that was.
Yeah, it's funny because I've
Mm-hmm.
run into those
And
people too.
by
They're
the way, just
always
wait,
under
Aaron, very quickly.
25.
By the way, Aaron, very quickly.
Yes.
By the way, Adam knows how to drive a stick shift because he drove my 1974 Alfa
Yeah,
Romeo
yeah,
Spider, so he does
yeah.
know
That
how to
was
do
in
it.
Yes.
Okay,
that
it's
was
not
in
represent. He's
Huntington.
not representative.
That was in Huntington Beach. I still appreciate that, Nicholas. I almost thought I was going to get into
Mm.
an accident because there were quite a lot of nice-looking ladies around those parts.
Yeah, that was
Got
my.
to be
I
the
wasn't
number
scared
one.
for the car. I was scared
Yeah.
for people.
That,
Well, I know, me personally, I have been in cars where I think it needs a stick shift. If you don't have that
Oh yeah.
that shift lever to move around, the car just loses everything. Uh, like a good example, recently I drove the 2014 Mazda MX-5, the current rendition of the Miata.
oh yeah, yeah.
The I drove it in both
Mm.
stick and manual, or a stick and automatic, and I honestly had a lot more fun in that car when I had a stick shift. That's a car that really kind of just wants you to shift the gears and play around, and wants you to drive. That's what the car's for. And part of the driving experience is moving the shift lever and operating that clutch. On the other hand, I have been in a lot of cars like our current cars. We have a Honda Civic, and it's a 5-speed manual, and I hate driving it because it is completely inconvenient. That's a car where you want to drive around, sip coffee with one hand and drive, or reach into the back seat to hand things to your daughter while you're driving, whatever. You don't want to have to run the shift lever because it's an everyday car. And
I think
on top of
Aaron,
that, we
you're
talked
making a good
about
point
paddle
right
shifting.
here.
I want to throw that in. Um, I want Nicholas. I want you to give me your opinion on this. I have driven
Yeah, Nicholas
sports cars with paddle
owns.
shifting, and I think it's a total waste.
Yeah,
What do you think?
Okay.
Nicholas.
Oh, yes.
What?
Sorry,
Yeah,
Adam. Go ahead.
Nicholas has Alfa Romeo Spiders, and then you have a. I assume your everyday car is an automatic, right?
Well, okay, so very quickly about that, yeah, I have two older Alfa Romeos. They're stick shifts, and then when Virginia was driving my cars, I said, no, wait, we got to find a modern car. So I wanted a Subaru, and she said, I need automatic. I'm stuck in traffic, so that's the only reason why we have an automatic
Mhm.
Subaru, and it's too bad because that car begs for a stick shift. So I'm going to go back to Aaron's point because you make a really good point right there. Some cars are really meant for a stick shift, but I think it's also because you kind of have to go back in time, okay? Originally, every car was manual. Basically, you had to shift, you had to know how to use a clutch and everything. So a lot of cars were designed from the get-go as manuals, and I think the Miata is a perfect example. It was even it was a template of a Lotus, which itself was the epitome of a stick shift car, right? So that car with that kind of a small engine, you lose all sensations with an automatic gearbox. So again, I think the transition in the 60s and 70s to automatic gearboxes were great on those big engines. They were terrible on the small engines, but they progressively got better and better. And now CVTs are getting much better because the first ones were absolutely horrible.
Yes.
And just to answer your question though about the paddle shifting, I think okay. It's kind of the same thing. It's the same point that you've been making about CVTs and with different companies. Toyota CVT is whatever. Mazda CVT, or which CVT did you say was really good? That you
Subaru
really
and
enjoyed?
Nissan are really good.
Subaru and Nissan CVTs are amazing. So it's the same thing with paddle shifting. If you right now step into a say Ferrari 458, you'll see paddle shifting is delicious. I drove the Alfa Romeo, the AC Competizione, and it was just brilliant because it was a click, 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 boom, and I'm in sixth gear, and we're doing well over 100 miles easily. So I guess it depends, and it always goes back to the more money you spend on a car, the better everything is going to be. So paddle shifting, unless you have a performance car, and then going very last point is
and I would make
the Mazda 6 Skyactiv. Very quickly, the Mazda 6 Skyactiv, the paddle shifting is redundant. You really don't need it in that car. In fact, you wouldn't even need a stick shift in that car. That automatic gearbox is perfect the way it is. That was the points I wanted to make.
Well, even going though, you said performance car, and I want to be very clear what performance means.
Yeah.
Performance is not a luxury sports car. Performance is a true sports car.
Yes.
The Lexus IS 350, it had paddle shifting, and it was completely there was no reason to have it. It's nice, it's fun. If you're going to drive on the racetrack, it's good to have.
I mean,
but really, how many people actually buy that car and go on the racetrack? Almost none of them. That car it's a luxury sports sedan, but it is not a performance car. And you really have to, like Nicholas said, normally get into either a lot of do-it-yourself stuff that you've done to a car, or buy a very high-end, almost supercar. One car I would say that needs to have paddle shifting, that would override a manual shifter, is a Nissan GTR. Because that is a true performance car, and you really need to have both hands on the wheel sometimes if you're really pushing it when you're going around a track in that car.
But you know what? You're right, because the GTR is a highly performance car, but it's also a completely electronic car, so that really needs it. And another thing too. What do you guys think about this? But I think the little Miata, should have pedal shifting.
I think it's an option in the automatic. You can have it.
I mean, maybe for they're going to be introducing the we're recording this in July, July 11th, and they're going to be coming out with the new 2015, which is, I think, the next generation. So
yes,
they might it could be on the next automatics. They might all have paddle shifting. That would not surprise me, honestly.
But it would make sense, right? Because Miata was supposed to be that fun little performance, and again, performance in a small P, with a small P, but that small performance convertible fun car.
Well, it's
exactly like Aaron, you say, all you need to do is have your both hands on the steering wheel and just actuate the gearbox like that. I mean, I hate. The way I look at it is very simple. For me, a stick shift is great for older cars. I'm used to it. I know what they're supposed to do and everything, and that's fine. When I jump in a modern car, like say the Miata, if it's souped up or anything like that, boy, I really like those pedal shifting, because my hands are exactly there. I know how that car functions, and it's been designed in a more modern way, so that makes sense.
I mean, most of the pedal shifting cars I've been in, I honestly feel like a tool using them, because it's like I feel like, well, if I'm using this, I really should be in like a F1 or like Indy car or something, because that's when it would be most useful. But I'm like, I mean, I don't really want to use these. It just feels stupid.
that brings up an interesting point. A lot of the cars, the real performance cars, the capital P performance cars that we've talked about, really should have not just paddle shifting but sequential transmissions as well,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
that's how they should be used. But also, for the small P, you probably don't want a sequential transmission. You want the ability to
Yeah.
jump around the gears a little bit, and use something other than paddle shifting occasionally. Another example, by the way, this week we went down for the Denver 200 event for Chrysler, where they were introducing us to the 2015 Chrysler 200, and I drove both the 200C and the 200S. The 200S is the sport version, and the 200C is the more luxurious version. And the 200S with the sport version has paddle shifting, and I used it one time and then said, yeah, this is completely useless, because you have a 9-speed transmission, and it literally is shifting constantly, and you have no idea it's happening when
Hmm.
you're driving an automatic, because it's so smooth you don't feel it. But it's shifting those gears constantly. Going up to just 45 miles an hour, you go through 5 gears, and it's amazing to me that they're doing that. But listening to what they're doing with that transmission, I totally understand why. Chrysler has to figure out how to make fuel economy, and it's a great transmission. But the point is that using those paddle shifters, I used them for a couple of minutes, and then I said, I'm killing this car. The fuel economy is, I'm probably getting 10 miles a gallon right now because
Right.
I'm not shifting enough. And
By,
in
by, by the
sport
way,
mode, you don't need it.
li- li-
Yes, go
yeah.
ahead.
By the way, who came out with the first sequential transmission in a mainstream car?
Um, I'm
No?
gonna say
Takers? The question is
Citroën.
easy. If I'm asking the Well, no, no, no. If I'm asking the question, it's very simple. Who came out with that? Alfa Romeo,
Really?
1999.
Okay.
Oh, I did not know that. Oh,
Yeah,
on the Spider?
first sequential transmission in a mainstream car was the City Speed in 1999,
Hmm.
I
and it
didn't
was
know that.
derived from a Ferrari system, obviously. Yeah, well,
Well,
the
well,
thing
that
is, Alfa
was
Romeo actually
just
made a lot
about
of
when.
contribution to the automotive. Like, also, they also did the fast start for diesel. If you remember, in the 1970s or 1980s, you had to wait for the diesel to warm up before you could start the car. Well, Alfa Romeo is the one who invented the whole fast start, which every diesels now have. But anyway, so I wanted to find out if the 8C Competizione has a
Isn't.
sequential gear. I think it is.
Well, that
Sorry,
was
go
just
on.
about when Alfa Romeo left the U.S. market. Of course, they're coming back now, and they'll be selling the 4C. Woohoo!
Yeah, which will
Yeah,
definitely.
I
picture
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And by the way,
CarNewsCafe, yeah.
I have an open invitation in San Francisco to go and test it out. So I can't wait for that to happen.
Yeah. Well, I guess my final thoughts about stick shifts versus automatics or manuals, as some people call them, is like Aaron and Nicholas said. I personally, most of the time, I just don't really want to drive a stick shift because 80 to 90% of my driving is around town, or I might get stuck in traffic, and I honestly don't really want to be shifting and having to deal with a clutch. But if I'm, on twisty roads, like uh, a car, the Alfa Romeo Spider, Nicholas's Alfa Romeo Spider, it was fun driving on the beach and shifting and checking out the ladies and driving around, and that was a lot of fun.
God
And
forbid it.
good thing nothing happened. And
Yeah.
yeah, and as if I was gonna buy a Mazda Miata, I would definitely want to get a stick shift because it's a car I'll probably only
Yeah,
drive
yeah.
1 or 2 days a week at most, maybe
So
for an hour.
Well, at the same
that's actually
time,
a really good point.
even
When we lived in, that's actually a very good point. When we lived in New York City and we were going to move out to California, my first reaction is, I am not getting stuck in traffic with a mundane, boring, everyday car. So I'm going to get myself Alfa Romeos because I don't mind being stuck in traffic with an old car and stick shift. It's a lot of fun. I'm totally engrossed. But you've got a good point though. If I wasn't into Alfa Romeos and everything, I would probably have gotten at the time a Mazda Miata, and I would have loved the pedal shifting. You're right.
well, I'll tell you something interesting, Nicholas, just to talk about being in stop and go traffic. One of the new features on the Chrysler 200 is that the what do they call it? Adaptive cruise control can actually fully stop the car and then start it again in stop and go traffic. So you don't have to use you don't have to touch the brake or throttle. Yeah, so that's why we did that little video, because it's almost fully automated driving. It's the closest you can get to a production vehicle today that has fully automated driving, because with the lane keep, where it keeps you in your lane, I was driving in the video and doing nothing. I was just sitting there holding my head in my hands, watching the road and talking to the camera while the car drove itself.
You know, that's pretty amazing, because we were pretty lazy to start. We're pretty lazy as a nation to start with, but this is really going to mean a lot of people are going to be putting makeup, eating, drinking, Lord knows what, and but we're getting there. We're getting there.
What are Europeans' views when they come over to America and they see that most people are driving automatics? Nicholas,
it's sort of a love and hate relationship. They wish they could have that back home, because they're really ticked off that they have to spend so much money on gas. They find it very comfortable, very what's the word, stressless, if ever there is a word like that. So they like that, but again, the problem is, if you're stuck in Paris, right? If you're stuck in traffic in Paris, you have to have a very small car. B, an automatic would be fun, but the car would be a slug. So modern little cars with automatic gearboxes are getting better.
Remember that European cars generally have much smaller engines with much smaller output than we're used to here.
Absolutely, it's not. I mean, it's not inconceivable to have.
But in Paris,
my first Ford, by the way,
blown away.
My first Ford was a 900 cc.
Yeah.
But when I was in Paris,
not even a liter.
Blown away by how fast people drive. In these little cars.
You know what? They're little cars. They're little cars. They handle well. You have to over rev them most of the time, and you just learn how to do that. I would not want to.
Adam, every vehicle in the big cities of Europe is basically a Honda. They're really good for the first 10 miles per hour. You can really make them feel like a sports car. And then after that, they just
Honda is good for that. Honda is very good for that. They made a really great cars for that.
Well, that was my first impression when I got into the new Fit. It feels like it's going really fast for the first 10 miles an hour, because it just has that punchy Honda thing that they always do at the low end.
Yeah. Those are zippy fun cars. The Fit.
Yeah. By the way, Nicholas, the Alfa Romeo 8C has a 6-speed transaxle gearbox.
It is a transaxle. I just saw that. Yeah. But 175 milliseconds between gears. Well, that's amazing.
And paddle shifting.
Well, I think it was the best compromise.
Well, do you guys have any final thoughts for stick shifts versus automatics? Or I think we've.
I do. What? I do. I can't wait till we have electric cars with gearboxes and pedal shifting. Although, as I say this, I realize that it will be completely impossible in the long run, as we're moving into in-hub motors. So there's no way you can put gears on every single darn wheels in a car. But I like it, but I don't miss it.
And for those that
I just wrote an article about that.
Well, here's something you might want to think about.
Electric cars
Adam, go ahead.
Don't have transmissions or gearboxes usually. A lot of them are direct drive, meaning that there's really no need to have the transmission. Just the power from the motor goes basically straight to the wheel. In the Chevy Spark, there is a gearbox, I think. Right.
No, there's
Most
not.
of them have a small gearbox just for reverse.
The only EV that has a
reverse.
No, reverse. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. No, but actually, hold on a second. Anyway,
I think you can just reverse polarity
and
then move the wheel backward. Right?
The only EV that has a gearbox is the Brembo, the electric motorcycle Brembo that has 6 gears. But here's the funny thing: most people, if not everybody, rides a Brembo.
Right.
Everybody who rides a Brembo only uses the 3rd and the 5th gear, period, or 2nd and 5th.
And you forgot about the early Roadsters.
They're not out. They don't work anymore. They were all changed back because there's no. Yeah. They're basically. You know what it is? It's just a question of limitations. There are no clutches that can handle the torque of an electric motor. Think about that little Spark EV, right? That little Chevy Spark EV, 400 feet-pound Did I say that right?
Pounds.
Yeah,
400 foot-pounds
400
of torque. Yeah.
foot-pound of torque. So there's not a lot of you can't really fit. I mean, you would have to fit a massive clutch into that car, which would outweigh the benefits. And anyway, a electric motor can spin up to what 11,000, maybe 15,000 RPM. So you got plenty of. You
Yeah, I
don't really
mean,
need
And
really a
we
gearbox.
should also disclaim this a little bit by saying that we're not including commercial vehicles in this because there are electric commercial vehicles that have gears. In fact, everyone I've ever seen
yeah,
has.
but I mean, on a
Different
regular
story.
car, if you put an electric
Yeah.
motor in and then you had a transmission, you burn it up because most
Right.
transmissions wouldn't be able to take it. So I
Right.
don't know
Actually,
who
you
would
know what? That's
actually
a good
want
point
to
you're making.
buy a Bramo with that 6-speed because I'd just be thinking this is going to go up any minute.
Well, it's the 6-speed in the Brembo was redundant because you don't start in first. If you start in first, you'll pop a wheelie for one thing. So you start in second, and then once you're on highway, you just pop in that fifth, and you're happy there. The only time I've seen EVs with gearboxes were conversions, like say the Miata, and I did drive one, by the way, with a conversion. It was fun, but guess what? I started in second, and on the highway, I just kicked it in fifth, and that was it. So really, the clutch only works twice, and even then, when I kicked it in, I did it slowly, and I made sure that it was almost matching the revs. And that was it. So no, there's not that much point. That's why I think a CVT will be very interesting to see if it can handle that much torque. But yeah, I don't think we're going to go.
Well,
there
there's
anytime
another side to that too. What about the new rev matching in like the Nissan 370Z?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's the way to go for ICE engines. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
even
But
for,
which
even
is basically
for
double
even
clutching
for an electric though, because you were just saying
Yeah,
you were
but
trying to
again,
match the revs. Well, what if the transmission can do that for you without using the now dated synchromesh?
right, but in that case, what you need to do is also develop a clutch that will be light enough and strong enough to handle something like 400, pound a foot square. What the heck? What is wrong with me today? I can't say it. 400 pound of feet, 400 feet. I need more tea. That's it. Anyway,
400
you
pound.
need to have
You can
a
say it
clutch
either
that
way.
can handle that much torque. Period.
Yeah, well, one thing we haven't talked about that somebody in particular is going to get on us if we don't bring it up is the fact that pickup trucks have gone away from manual transmissions.
Yes.
In fact, you almost can't buy a pickup truck with a manual transmission anymore. As far as I know, there aren't any.
Tim,
Almost everybody except I don't remember who it is.
Why would you want to if you're
It
hauling
gives you,
something or?
well, it gives you more torque control. It gives you the ability, if
Yes.
you're pulling a heavy load, it gives you the ability
Yeah.
to control how much power
Yeah.
you're pulling and
I
how
think
high
that's
you
a
want to
good
run
point
your revs.
Yeah, for professionals, like if you're a real professional and you need a pickup truck, you're going to haul a lot of things. Your chances are you're going to be stuck on some muddy field, and you don't want that damn automatic to start in first or whatever. You want to start in second or third or fourth, whatever it is, so that you have traction. Same thing with the snow. Same thing with anything slippery. So I think for professionals, they should have the choice. But unfortunately, they're going to be paying.
Well, it is what it is, and
Yeah.
actually, even in commercial grade vehicles, we're seeing a walk away from gear shifting and going into automatic transmissions.
Yeah.
Of course.
You're especially seeing that with
One of the
city style trucks like garbage trucks and whatnot.
Aaron,
Yes.
They're doing a lot of that.
Aaron and I were talking about this beforehand a little bit, and I was saying I recently just finished up an electrical class at the local tech college here, and the
Automotive
instructor,
electrical, we should point out.
yes, and I was talking with the instructor, and he was a GM tech for some number of years, and he was a specialist in rebuilding a particular line of GM transmissions, like 2, and then some of the engines, and he was saying specifically about the Chrysler 9-speed and some of these new 8-speeds that they're coming out with. He was saying he doesn't see that there'll be many technicians out there that will be rebuilding those, or that Chrysler will even want people attempting to rebuild them, because he said a lot of people who even rebuild automatic transmissions specifically, they're still trying to grapple with understanding the 6 speeds and like rebuilding those, because that's pretty complicated.
Well, I was told
Can you
directly
imagine rebuilding
by
a 9-speed?
engineer.
Yeah,
I was
I think they'll just have to replace them or junk those cars. I
well,
mean,
Oh, what does this remind you of, by the way? What does this remind you of? This is like the car maker's business model, right? Fails at
yeah,
70,000 miles, buy another one for $3,000, and woohoo, we made it, guys.
well, there's two things that are happening though. I was told by a Chrysler engineer directly that the transmissions that they're building are they're being built specifically to be both disposable and modular. So if something goes
Nice,
wrong physically with it in a
nice.
in some of the gearing or like a selection of gears or something, they can actually just remove that and put new ones in. And
Oh,
then if
that's nice.
there's something else that goes wrong, overall, the transmission is actually relatively cheap. So you can just pull it out, send it to recycling, and put another one in.
You know what?
Um,
That's actually really
so
smart what you just said. That's a feat of
yeah,
engineering because if
that's
you can
kind of what
actually
they're
take
aiming
only
for.
gears in there, the modular part, that makes sense because that was the whole. What okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to put a little bit of history around that. But after the war, the Second World War in Europe, the reason why, well, actually during the Second World War, the reason why Hitler did so well with the Volkswagen Beetle was that it was fully modular, and that's why it
Yeah,
appealed to people. They could
I was
drive into a mechanic's
same.
place and
Yeah,
have the front wing change for that much in that many minutes, and that was the
same,
whole idea. That
yeah,
was the
same
whole reason why we
with
were
the
going away
Dos Chevaux.
from hand-built cars with specific bodies to, hey, this is a mass-produced car where you can change this for that much that time.
yeah.
So this is what we
Uh,
should be
Mhm.
doing now anyway.
so both of
Yeah.
you had a Beetle when it first came out?
And
No, the
which, do you know how much they cost now?
the
How much they fetch now?
yeah, go and find one. I have a brother-in-law who collects them. Anyway, the Dos Chevaux is the same thing, but it was one step further because you could actually just swap the modules out yourself
Those
because
are
almost nothing was
Yes.
bolted on the car.
Citroen 2C.
Nothing is
What
bolted.
is it?
By the way, you know
2CV.
what this is? So just two things about the deux chevaux, which I really like. They used to have contests of how to overtip them, and you
Yeah,
can't overtip
yeah.
a deux chevaux. It doesn't have a sway bar, so the thing just it just basically tips over until it doesn't tip over. It just leans over,
Well,
but never tips over. So
it
another thing too, very
basically
quickly. So
handles
So
like a
you can
the
actually
1930s
work with
Buick.
a deux chevaux with only two things: a pair of pliers and a screwdriver. That's all you need to
Yeah.
do. Everything is clipped together.
well
It's
the
And
amazing.
you could actually buy the car with that toolkit included.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
and by the
absolutely.
way, the reason it won't tip so easily is because the suspension is extremely loose. It's like a
Oh God.
1930s Buick. It rolls everywhere. So
In
it can't,
fact,
and because the car is so small and low, it won't roll over. So
and in
it
fact, by
just
the way,
absorbs it with the
if
suspension.
if you if you've ever driven one, the first thing you'll do is, of course, you're gonna step on the accelerator, and the car will lurch back and forth and jump up and down. So you really learn how to
You have to ease
be
it.
very feathered foot with it, or else it'll just bounce all around and everything. So once you learn
yeah,
how to drive that thing,
we've
it's the neatest thing in the world.
I believe we've talked about this before on an
I
earlier
know, as I'm
podcast.
saying this, yeah, deja vu
We've
here.
talked about it
Sorry.
many times because it's my favorite car.
Okay, well, I'll share another very quick story, very
Seriously?
funny story. I, I was working.
It is. It's my
I was
favorite car.
working at news. I
Well,
was
I
very
would.
tired.
Sorry,
Wait, can I?
Nicholas,
Let
continue with
me,
your
let me just say
story.
this very quickly. 3 weeks ago, I was working a lot, and I was really tired, and I was, rubbing my eyes and everything, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see a pink de Chevaux go by. Did I already tell this story?
Yeah, you did.
Oh,
It
geez,
was a while
Louise,
ago,
humility.
and I don't remember when or what, but I remember
We'll
hearing
link
it.
up to that in the
Oh,
show notes. Yeah, you'll have to listen to the podcast. Pete. Come on.
well, okay. Anyway, I'm going to
We
meet
need
the
to
guy
wrap
now.
up actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
good. I'm wrapping up.
the final thing I'll say is I'm actually excited for more electric cars coming out because, like we said, they won't even need transmissions, and honestly, a lot of people think they're more complicated. I guess the software is more complicated, and all
Not
the
really, actually.
electronics.
Not necessarily.
Really?
Adam, just
Well,
no, actually, Adam, just to say something about that. When I met with Steve Celine and his team, I told him, I asked him, I said point blank, you guys are used to working on gasoline cars, but now going to an electric car, this is a whole new ball of technology. Are you? I mean, is it really complicated? They looked at me and they said, absolutely not. modern cars are really electronics. Going to an electric car is actually even easier because once
Yeah,
you undo
that's
that
kind of
electric
what I thought.
motor, there are two moving part, or maybe three moving parts in it if you include, the reverse. So it's very interesting that actually it's not that it's much less complicated than a modern car. An electric car is less complicated than a brand new Ferrari. Put it this way.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why that will be a good thing. Electric vehicles, electric cars, motorcycles. That'll be a positive thing because there's not even the issue of the transmission. If
Right.
you could put one in, but like we said, it would probably burn it up, and that's a good thing. And there's less moving parts. And the electric motor, honestly, probably the wiring or some sort of controller would fail before that motor would ever fail, if you sort of understand
but
how.
electric cars have one huge downside. I can't roll
Range.
coal.
Well, and regarding stick shifts, if you're listening to this and you don't know how to drive one, I highly encourage you to learn. Maybe just get like a $600, $500 car and just beat the shit out of it that's a stick shift and learn, because I once had the opportunity to drive I think it was like a 88, 89 Lotus Esprit. It was a stick shift.
Esprit, you
And
drove an Esprit?
No, I didn't, because at the time the person said, "Oh, they're like, oh yeah, they're like, you want to take it for a spin?" And I looked inside and I was like, "Oh, it's a stick shift." And they were like, "Oh, do you not know how to drive one?" And I was like,
would have just driven it in first gear.
Well, no. So it's always good to know. Or like Nicholas, he was like, "You want to drive my Alfa Romeo Spider on Huntington Beach?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
At that point, I did know. So it's good to know,
I've
because
learned how
you
to.
might get an opportunity
I
to
actually,
drive a really cool car, and
I actually learned how
you
to
wanna
drive a
take
stick
'em.
shift as a kid, and then I took my driver's test in a stick shift. And the first time I'd ever driven an automatic was when I went
Really?
to driver's ed.
Interesting.
But anyway, also, like, I got to drive the 1965 GT Dart GT convertible, which was a 4-speed stick. I've driven big trucks, little trucks, all kinds of stuff that were all stick shifts. If you learn
It's
how
a
to
good
do it,
skill.
learn how
Good
to
skill
double
to
clutch
have.
if you can find a way to learn how to do that. Learn those things, because even if you hardly ever use it, it's still something that you have learned how to do, and then when the opportunity comes up, you can jump on it. You never know what's
Right.
gonna come at you. So anyway, I think I'm gonna sign off. This has been Aaron from CarNewsCafe.com. And by the way, jump on our site right now, and you can see the inaugural Hick Boy and Highfalutin video, where we show you how that Chrysler 200 drives itself.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
And
Nicholas, do
this
you have
is
any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, my
Or we've
very last
covered?
closing thought is I mean, if unless you're just happy driving your everyday regular car, don't bother with a stick shift. But if you do want to find out, I highly encourage you to try a modern stick shift and also an old stick shift. I'll tell you the difference between my 1974 Alfa Romeo Spider and a brand new car with a stick shift today is that I really throw my gears. There's easily like 7 to 8 inches of throwing those gears around. Like a modern Miata with a short throw, or even a Subaru with a short stick throw is just like a click and a click and a click. So it's really interesting. It'll get your mechanical gears going inside your head. It's very interesting, but most of the time it's true. I mean, it's going the way of the dodo, and paddle shifting will be the next big thing anyway, or is the next big thing, and
Well,
these automatic gearboxes these days are really fantastic. So
and
yes?
to your point, Nicholas, also people should understand there's a big difference between driving, like I say, a 1960s or 50s stick and a modern stick shift. The synchro mesh has improved a lot.
You know, even in
So
econo
you should
box.
learn how to goose it and let it off and,
Actually,
rev
no,
match a little bit
Aaron,
if you're going to
no,
drive older cars.
that's not true. That's not true because most sinks have been replaced by now, so you're using modern sinks. So the only thing that has not improved is the actual shifting itself and the actual how do you call it, the grill itself. So there's a lot of movement around, but the sinks I have on my Spiders are brand
What
new.
if you're
They're from
driving a fully
2000.
restored classic car?
They don't make old sinks the way they used to. You have to like make it yourself
I
or
know.
have it, cast it yourself.
What I'm saying is the
So
Dart that I was in is 100% original. Nothing on that car's
well,
been
I mean,
changed.
unless you find an OEM, an open box, yeah, that would be it. So, but even then, you were, the only thing you did back then that is different from now, much like tires and brakes, is you really waited for that sink to mesh and to get in there. So you
Yeah,
wouldn't just
yeah.
throw it in. Like second, you would just wait, you feel it, and then click, it would go in.
Mhm.
So that's the only difference. But it's not, it's very different. It's the and strangely enough, my Alpha, I only do that on the second gear. The third, fourth, and fifth, they just go in like butter. It's beautiful.
Well, and then there's very
Anyway, that was
specialty
nice.
stuff like the Model T and Model A shifting and stuff like that. That's a whole different
That was
ballgame.
Yeah, that was fun. We can talk about that next time. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, so I was right. That was your
So-
first car. Well,
So this
anyway,
is Nicholas.
My first car was a monster truck.
Yeah. Mods?
My first car was a three-wheeler, big
Really?
wheel. That's it.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, this is Nicholas Art signing off for Car News Cafe. Hope you've enjoyed the cacophony of stick shifts and pedal shifting and automatics and a
And
little bit
electric.
about electric vehicles.
And this is Adam from CarNewsCafe.com. If you guys want to check us out on Twitter, again, we're at CarNewsCafe. Tweet us questions or comments. I'm pretty active on there. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/CarNewsCafe online. I'm not as big into Facebook. Again, I'm Adam Yamada
He
on
forgot his
Twitter.
last name. He forgot his last name.
Well, my full name is Yamada-Hanf, but that's
sorry.
apparently too complicated for most people.
Adam, I'm sorry. I have no. Hold on. Time out here. No, I'm half German and I've lived in Germany. People have to learn how to pronounce it. It's Yamada Humph. Yamada Humph. Okay, that's it. Simple, right?
No. This is a total tangent. A lot of people don't know what a hyphen is.
Yeah, it's funny. It's true.
So it's a big problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
a lot of people don't know.
I actually have a question for the audience, not for Nicholas or Aaron. Don't answer it. We'll put it in the show notes. If you're still available on the dating market and you met a girl that was driving a stick shift car, would that make her much more attractive?
Oh, that's
and
mean. Why can't I
don't-
answer that one? That is just
Don't
mean.
put. You can answer it in the comments. Don't. You can maybe put a little sexual comments.
No, do not. No.
Not
We're not going to go that
too-
route. And a lot of people, it's not
Well,
worth
not.
I know
too,
because I just refrained this whole conversation from my theory on
I know.
cars that stick shifts
it.
are boys
Exactly.
and automatics
Yeah,
are girls.
exactly.
I
Come
refrained
on.
from
Yeah.
saying that. Come on.
Yeah. No, that's
well,
going to be
nothing too
slippery.
outlandish,
Nicholas.
but if
Did
you want to
get it?
make
It's
some
going to be a
funny
slippery slope. Did you get it? It's going to be a slippery slope. No. Oh boy.
Yeah,
oh boy.
That's all right. Anyway,
Well, anyway,
yeah,
you guys
this is
All right.
and signing off. This is Lunk. Have heavy stuff to carry. Call me.
All right. See you guys.
Signing off. This is Butterfly Fingers.